Alright, so we're working on Pong, and we're up to step 3, bounce on the paddle. So the tricky part here is figuring out what bouncing behavior really looks like. So I have a couple of pictures in here. I put this is a little bit of physics, but and actually this picture has to do with light bouncing off a mirror, but it's the same idea of a ball bouncing off of a wall. This line says normal. This is if you're hitting the surface dead on, you're going to want to bounce straight back. Okay, so if our turtle is flying in straight this way, when he hits the wall, we want him to, if this is the ball, right? We want him to, when he hits the paddle, we want him to just turn right around and go right back the way he came. Okay, so you can see there, and there are a couple of possible solutions to this, a couple of ideas. So one idea that they put down is if you said right 180, right? Because if you have this turtle and he's facing straight over in this direction, which is oh yeah, let me just show you the directions to make sure that you're clear on that. So the headings for the turtle, if I open up his backpack, right now his heading is 0. Okay, so see, we're facing 0 on this 360-degree protractor here. If we set his heading, we can set his heading to 30, and then he'll face towards the 30, should be pretty much, or 90. Okay, so these are the that's how heading works. Heading will just set him automatically to go in that direction. If we say 270, he goes that way. Okay, so so let's take a look at this guy. So now we'll open his backpack, and so he's facing 90 right now. Right, and what we want is when he gets over here for him to turn so he's facing 270, right? So one suggestion is, well, if you say right 180, then he'll go, that'll work, right? Because if you're facing 90 and then you say right 180, 90 plus 180 is 270. So that'll work in the case where you're hitting it dead on. But what you want is there are these things called angle of incidence and angle of reflection. So let's see if I can line this guy up kind of on this line here. So let's say he's coming in at this angle right here, right? His bounce needs to make this angle. Okay, so if he's coming in at, let's see what that is, about 110 around, something like that, then he wants to come out at something like 240. These aren't exact numbers, but something like that, right? So so the right 180 doesn't seem like it's going to work, right? If I said if I was going right 110, I'm going like this, and then I say right 180, he's just going to bounce right back that way. So that's not what we want. So how do we get him from going from this line P and then change to be going on this line Q. Let's see. All right, well, we have this set H to heading plus 180, but that's doing the same thing as RT 180, right? If our heading is 120 right now, and we set the heading to heading, so heading reports the number that's in here. So heading is going to report a 120, and when I say plus 180, that just turns in 180 degrees. So again, that's not working that great. So let's see. What if we said, try this next one, set H 360 minus heading. So instead of doing this, we say set H 360 minus heading. So we're going down this way, we're going down, 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 down to here. Let me say set H 360 minus heading. Ooh, that looks pretty good. So it looks like it's going to go this way, right? Okay. Well, let's think about that. If we're here, so we were facing at, let's bring up this guy's backpack. I guess we were, yeah, okay, so if we were facing 120 and then said set heading for that would switch him to 240. Okay. So interesting. So 360 minus 120. Well, you know what's interesting? If it's 360 minus 120, that's the same as, you know how you can do right and left turns? So if we start him at 0, let's put him at a heading of 0. Okay. If we say set H 120, you know he's going to go to 120, right? Or we could say, or if we set him to 0, we could say RT 120. You go that way. Or if we set him to 0 and said LT 120. Oh, if we say LT 120, he's going 240. Or what if we said, what if we set him to 0 and we said RT minus 120? He goes to 240. So RT minus something is the same as LT, that amount, right? Because if you're starting at 0, that's the same as starting at 360, isn't it? So if you're subtracting heading from 360, that's kind of the same as subtracting heading from 0, right? So you could just say, if I say set heading to 360 minus 120, that's 240. Or if I say set the heading to minus 120, that's 240. Interesting. Because you're subtracting from here, right? You're changing the amount from here, whether this is, you look at this as 0 or as 360. So it looks like set H minus 120 does the same thing, or set H minus heading does the same thing as set H 360 minus heading. So let's check that out. So if we say So we're, oops, let me close that. I was looking at the wrong turtle here. Open his backpack. So yeah, you want to be careful when you're looking at these backpacks. It says here backpack for T1 on page 3. So right now I'm on page 3. See how page 3 is checked? So I want to be looking at the turtles on page 3. Okay, so heading 120, boom, 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 boom. And then set, let's get rid of this one. We know this one works. Set H 360 minus heading. What about set H to minus heading? Ah, looks like that one works too. Okay, so it looks like both of these last two work. So we could use either one of those. So let's go back to our, let's close this backpack out so I don't get confused and go back to our paddle ball here. Now it says open the ball's backpack and click on the rules tab. So how do we make the ball actually do that when it, so open backpack, remember that's with control click on the Mac or right click on Windows. Open backpack. So to make him actually turn when he comes in contact with the paddle, what we do is we're in the rules tab. So again, we have state, procedures, shapes, notes, audio, and rules. We're in the rules tab. We're going to go to the on touching. Remember, we already wrote forward 2, wait 1 in the on click instruction field, right here. Now in the on touching field, we're going to type in, well, let's just type in set H to minus heading. Okay. So again, minus, all of these words are words that Logo knows that we can look up in the vocabulary. So let's just double check that. So these should all be words. If it's not a word that you taught Logo how to do, then it should be a word in the vocabulary. So let's make sure that we're using words that that MicroWorlds understands here. So set H minus heading. So heading, let's see. Heading reports the current turtle's heading in degrees. So this is going to report a number, which is, and basically it just reports the number, this number here in the state tab. Right now this heading is 70, so it's going to report a 70. So basically the 70 is going to be handed off to the minus procedure. So let's see what the minus procedure does. I bet you can already guess. Let's see, minus procedure, and look, the minus procedure needs an input. It needs a number as input. Let's just check the heading again. Heading, there's no entries down here for any input, so it doesn't need any inputs. So minus needs a number for an input. And minus is also a reporter. Minus reports the additive inverse of its input. That's just another way of saying, if this number is positive, minus will make it negative. If this number is negative, minus will make it positive. Minus must be used to report the additive inverse of a variable. Oh, because you can't use a negative sign in front of a variable. Well, that's not something we have to worry about yet. But okay, so it says given that the turtle exists on the page, because set X won't work if there's no turtle on the page. This result is just an example. You can set the X coordinate to minus the Y coordinate. Okay, so Y core is another reporter that just reports this number, what the Y coordinate is, and then minus makes that negative, and set X will set the X coordinate. Okay, so what is ours doing? Ours is saying take the heading and pass that off to minus, whatever the heading is. So in our case, the heading is 70. We pass the 70 off to minus. So minus is going to take the 70 as input, and it's going to report a negative 70. And then set H, what does set H do? Set H, set heading, or set H is an abbreviation for set heading, takes a number and sets the turtle's heading to that number, to the specified direction. Okay? So that's what that does. So, and it does it when we touch the paddle. So let's try it. Boink. Hey, we reflected. Okay, and then well, let's save this up, and then in the next video we will actually write a procedure and teach MicroWorlds EX a new word.